Meow. Meow. Okay. There we go. Hello Fractal, hello Nabi. Hello Final. Hello Yanni. Hello Kuro, welcome in. Yo. Today is the usual Monhunt. Hi Sky. Welcome in. Let me... Is it Omega Day? Every day is Omega Day, man. Until we defeat this guy. Actually, the next Fatalist. Material farming. I don't know what else do we need to farm. At most, what, armor sphere? Just to upgrade? If need mushroom, Mentor, call me. I mean, we usually have a food party for our Monhunt. I technically already defeated Omega, the story one at least. Only Kuchan and Des Heaven, so we're trying to clear the story, progress the story for them. Yeah. Yesterday? I thought she respond in the chat now. Yeah, maybe need to feed the cat or something. Good old Omega. Yo. Hello. How are you? Doing good. Tomorrow I'm on leave. Oh, actually she's in my lobby. I see her. Ebony. Oh. But yeah, work was pretty chill. I guess maybe I managed to submit everything I can today, because tomorrow I'm on leave to accompany family for appointments. But hopefully after I get back, then it'll be a free day for me. Oh, hehehe. And then Wednesday is a half day for me because I'm finally using the time off from my OT the other time. Oh ho ho ho. Oh ho ho ho. Hi Rutar, welcome in. Hi Marcus, welcome in. Today is a Monster Hunter as usual. Mondays are for Monster Hunter. Okay, I shall unmute y'all. Yum. Oh, so savor smell. Yes.
You unmute us to that?
Okay. Konbanba. Alright. Another day, another Omega. Alright. Yum.
Do you farm your god bugs and all that?
You.
I did.
Farm? Dang.
Okay.
Really?
Damn.
Nice.
Girl be doing the homework.
Not like maybe 20.
That's it.
Bruh.
I thought like 200.
Immediately taken away. Immediately Sheriff was like, he's all disappeared.
20?
20 is not too bad.
When indeed? When?
This kind of bad news, right, is worse than just getting
Stop
bad news.
replying.
Yeah,
When?
good news, then immediate bad news that backfire. Oh,
It was two hunts ago that after y'all finish, right, I was running around the map looting.
Oh.
Yeah. I looted enough for the last hunt, that's why. But last hunt I used a lot, so I don't know now. And then the Nata is like fucking slacking, bro. He's like a fucking
He's not working, bro.
Oh.
Yeah, he's not.
Oh, wait. Stream slide, stream slide.
Oh, sorry.
I
What do you call
start
that?
saying some dangerous things.
A parental guidance?
I think the worst has already been said before
That's
on
true.
stream.
There's so many rules.
That is true. The worst is for
I don't even know
real.
what the worst is. Haven't we seen
Oh,
anything?
you
Oh.
know. You know what the worst is.
Which
You
one?
are-
There's so many.
You are the source of the worst thing.
Oh, thank you for
Yeah,
the
for
stream.
real.
Then stream. Oh my god, I can't speak.
But y'all know I'm saying.
No, I don't know.
I don't know,
anything,
man.
Thank you.
Something fertilize something.
I don't know anything.
That's crazy. Bam, bam,
Let
bam.
me accept.
Oh damn.
So, we clear by 10 p.m.
Whoa, we can clear by
Yeah,
9.
trust.
9:25.
9:30. Okay.
Alright.
That's a realistic time, okay, guys. About 10.
My mouth is feeling oddly sensitive today.
It's a sign. I'm gonna beat him.
Oh, I could be whiffing all my shots.
Hey.
I don't know
Y'all
why it's
aim.
Like, so sensitive. But the DPI is normal, so I have no clue.
Oh, my mouse also feels a bit different.
Right. It's not me, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
actually, my mouse also feels a bit different today. I don't know. Maybe later if I miss my hits then all.
This is
Huh?
an excuse only. This is an excuse
Nani?
only.
Your mouse
Oh.
feeling a bit weird today as well. Right?
Well, maybe, mayhaps.
I see how it is. Right? Later you cut, hey, my mouse a bit
Hi,
Oh,
Vocal,
this is
Gunlands,
evolving to
yo,
the Jakami gaming like vibe already.
Gunlands.
What
Oh wait,
does
why
that
am I
mean?
using the
I don't know what
fire
that's
one?
supposed to mean.
There
Oh.
is no trust in the game group.
What? There's always room for jokes among friends. That's all.
I don't know about that. Later you hear Cherry start scolding me already.
Oh.
When have I ever not scold you?
Damn.
You say as though I've been holding back or something. Since when?
Oh, Joe, he bullying me.
No chair here. Got chair.
Oto-san, he bullying me.
I like how he doesn't even like. Since when I don't. Since when I scold you, he just. Since when I don't scold you.
I mean, I think I have always been blunt, no?
Alright,
Only for
alright.
this. Only for this.
Special treatment.
Yeah,
Mm.
you should be happy.
No thanks.
Alright.
Alright. Already?
Yup.
Drinking,
I'll
drinking.
learn
Drinking
how
hot
to use
drink.
Oh, wait, make sure I'm using my thunder weapon. Alright.
And casting palm
Okay.
motif.
Yeah.
Casting. I forgot my combo again. Need to refresher. Ah. Ooh. Aduh. Oh, yeah.
Where are you going?
I'm gonna
bro?
ask a fucking stupid question. How do you keep weapon?
E.
Shift without your alternate on.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
shift. Oh, keep weapon.
Oh, you're in the lock
Confirm has
mode.
alternate on one.
Yeah. you
Ah.
know.
Hello, Lottie. Yum.
Oh, where you going?
Oh, why am I using my... Okay, sure. Oh, that was a failed jump, but that's fine. Oh, yeah. Do, 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 do.
I still can't believe the skill what
Hmm.
the skill difficulty skew so much.
What do you mean?
Like as in from the previous mob until this mob.
I mean, this is extra content.
Oh.
Like it's post end game, you know. People normally have weeks of content, weeks of farming in between the previous one and this one.
Oh shit.
You need-
Ooh.
you need-
Oh, thank God.
Might not be me though.
Oh, mounted.
It was whoever was
Okay.
past me.
Me.
I
guess.
was running behind also.
Oh, okay. So hard to say.
Hurry up. Hurry up.
It is fragile.
Oh. Oh, rampage, rampage. Beam!
Super shiny.
If you shoot the leg, it's like 900 times many.
Oh,
Maybe his legs is the weak spot.
Ow!
oh. Careful.
Don't run past me.
Oh, okay. Wait.
One leg.
Like, stop moving. Yeah.
Got leg here. Oh crap.
Oh, it can
I'm
run.
gonna leave for now.
Okay, I think that I can get that one.
Got it.
Okay, nice.
Also,
Huh, into the fire. Huh?
Ah! Oh, I am on the floor. I am on the floor. Thank you, thank you. Oh! Yeah,
Still
but.
got one more leg.
get me out.
Oh! Oh my god. What? Oh, he dashed to me. Oh, did I die? Oh, I died.
Oh my god! I couldn't see him.
Stun!
Ababa.
Too bad.
Wow.
Bubble tea down.
Bubble tea right up.
Uchan
Oh my
down.
god!
Oh, was I on the wrong weapon again? Oh, a wound. Oh shit. Oh shit.
Ah. Funny.
tomate.
Huh? He just
Oh, you get
MRD
it?
Misa so
Nice.
early.
Eh?
I don't think I ever saw him cast it in this stage of the game before.
Oh, what was he casting? Oh, the
The multi
The
one
HP
shot
thing,
with,
yeah.
missile.
oh.
Blade got
Thanks.
Got it.
Got wound here.
Shira got the aggro. I'm cheating.
Okay.
Oh, need to sharpen.
Okay.
didn't use the rocks, yeah.
Adios, game.
Oh yeah.
That might be one reason why it took so long. I tried to get him there, but he did that disappearing act just now. The one that got Shira.
Yeah, he just
So I
zoomed.
just lost track of him.
Wow.
there.
To like off the map.
He went very deep into the cave.
Yeah.
Out of our vision. Snowstorm.
So no need change weapon, you just
I mean, can
Not
change the thing,
yet. Yeah.
But later, once he start the thing first.
Oh, I forgot to use my mental. Well, I can use it now. Show.
oh fuck.
Oh, that's odd. Space is not here. Starbot, he's right. Never mind.
Oh,
Cancel.
nice.
Nice cancel.
Which one you got that wound, huh?
Trying to. No, it's still there.
I got the MEP.
Shira got it. Tell me when you need.
All good.
Got the shield generator.
Okay, you pass
You all
it
want me to put
when it's
now?
dangerous. Maybe later when the next phase starts.
You sure you can't just summon a shield generator for the Celia, I guess.
What do you mean?
Like to block him.
Pretty sure cannot.
No, cannot.
Oh, okay.
Why
He's
he pushing
going.
the mechanic? Change your weapon if you want to. Plant
Changing.
the shield near the center, I guess.
Near the center. Is the thing here?
Yeah, he's here. On me, on me.
Okay, we stay on the shield so that. Oh, never mind. You Shira's dead.
I'm coming to y'all. Ooh. Okay.
The Marlboro.
You get paralyzed. Get ready to fight.
Oh shit, I also.
Oh,
Oh,
Oh.
also.
oh shit.
How can I help you guys?
Okay, ready.
Yeah,
Okay.
come out. Let me see where the others are.
I got the enmity. Oh. Okay, y'all can try beat him while I try to distract him, maybe. Shine! Ora! Oh, nice. Okay. Sharpen. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Just
Oh,
Drink your stuff if you need.
young eh. This is
so fucking locked in.
We
Yeah.
this,
Uh-huh.
I don't even want to write my shit.
Yeah, don't. Alright. Time to change back your weapons. Bam, bam, bam. Bam. Oh, he's skating.
Thanks.
Ora!
Oh crap.
Oh shit. Oh. Oh, he's scaling. Oh, he got a wound on his leg. The left side of him. Alright, can use this shit here.
He's right.
Stay in the shield if you need.
You're right.
Nice.
You say stay the shadow. Hop in, hop in.
Yeah.
Good, man.
On.
Come on.
Rude,
It's okay, it's okay, it's okay.
rude little shit.
Master bought on me shit. Let me bring this out of the shield. Oh.
Got the thing.
Okay. Healing. Try heal more. Hold up.
I don't know how you.
Give me my shit.
Wound. Give me that wound.
Replenish?
Is he going? Well, where is he going? Well,
Is he
huh?
going or not?
I was like, well,
But we
okay.
give a very well firework before he.
Alright. Yeah, I guess we can replenish. This is it. Yeah, this is the run. Believe. Thanks for the 230 stream. Shush. Thank you.
I'm ready. Am I ready actually?
You eat a bit.
Alright. I'm coming back too.
I'm coming home. I'm coming home.
Extreme next. Get my ration. Right.
Remember your hot drinks.
Yum. Beep.
Already? One,
Yeah.
two,
Up here.
three. Where's Mr. Four? Or Miss Four?
Huh?
Are you down there?
Nah, we are
Oh,
up here.
yeah. Let's go.
Alright.
Ready, one,
Jump!
two,
Oh. I'm
Go,
jumping.
go.
Jump off the second.
Take my laser beam.
Wings!
Wing.
Oh, this is Rampage. Mustard. Oh. Oh shit. I'm shielding. I'm gonna die. Oh shit. Oh, secret. Oh, thank you.
Oh fuck.
I think I run out of my life.
Sorry.
Oh my god.
I
Huh?
tapped and then I shift by accident, then I opened the fucking Steam. I will
Are you all-
dance for you. Sorry, Sherry.
Oh my god.
I know the mustard.
Yeah, I saw the mustard came back to me.
Oh no, he walked past.
Yeah,
Is
I feel
it?
like
Does this
I got my
count?
second rate,
Can't tell. Not really.
I don't expect the Steam thing to open. I panic like
Uh, uh,
shit.
uh. Oh shit! I got the thing.
I got 2 stack already. I cannot take it.
That's how it is.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, babe. I'm running out of there first. Okay, thank you.
Corner not very good.
Oh. Oh.
Pushing
What
back.
is that?
Nice.
Power glitch.
Oh!
Shira, I cannot take anymore.
Okay. Oh. Oh, that one. Oh, we dropped already. Okay. I'm coming. Oh shit. Oh, Cherry. Okay. Okay.
Any hit will bring me down to 1 dot already.
Uh,
Okay, thank you. I'll just move
Okay.
away from the stun.
yeah.
Like, before the debuff very out. Careful MRV, ah.
What's MRV?
Mounting missile.
Oh,
He'll keep shooting. Not sure who is targeting right now.
he targeting me right now. Oh, my health. Oh, thank God. Okay. Let me heal. Heal. Oh, shit. Oh. Okay, nice.
Nice.
Ba. His face got wound.
Tabot.
Oh,
I
shit.
hit something.
Oh, nice. I think it's the face. Oh, shit.
Over the
Heal a little bit.
going.
Okay.
Monday,
Is
what
he
the?
targeting you? Turn. You're
Ah,
under that rock.
right. Rock.
Oh, he
rock,
dash-
rock here. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, there's 2 rocks.
Oh, nice. Oh, yeah.
Why he barely stagger, bro.
Oh shit, master on me. Oh no! Oh shit, I cannot move. Okay. I was like, back fall.
I don't see the shiny one.
Oh shit. Yeah, bye.
Oh, stun.
Oh.
Powder.
I do not have powder.
Not good.
Oh, yeah, bye.
Oh, he was scout already for quite a while.
Ah, close.
God.
Damn.
Almost.
Yeah.
Hey, first try already almost. Pretty good.
Warm up.
Damn, so close.
Yar.
Man.
Oh shit.
Almost there.
Might need to farm life powder. I noticed. I think I don't have it.
How? What we farm in?
I don't know, sia. Let me see. Maybe I just didn't craft.
Dun.
Got by accident.
How many?
10, but dead.
Down, 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 down.
Run lah.
Why?
if
His
y'all want.
estimate. Wait.
I can still run another round if y'all have enough.
Running low also, but still have enough one.
Long. It's okay. Da, 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 da. Okay, okay.
Oh, go again.
Go again, go again.
Sure.
Many fireworks.
Yo. Yeah.
You need to work even though we fail our quest, man.
Yeah, man.
Oh.
All right.
To get a bunch of materials from Nata, just keep resting on the bed. Apparently.
I guess
It's like in-game days kind of thing.
it count as a passing day, huh?
I think so.
The
Is that why sometimes I got
the
a lot?
one that we had to use the what you call
Points,
that?
right?
The points.
points,
Points,
huh?
right? Yeah.
That's what they say lah. I don't know whether I had never tried.
I think we've done that before. Cause you remember when we were
We were
cycling
re-rolling,
to-
yeah.
Yeah.
Then suddenly all 16, right?
Yeah. Nata was full for a while.
Yeah, I seem to recall that also.
I guess that's one way. Sleep for days.
Yeah. To get other people to be hardworking, you gotta slack.
After all that we've been fighting, we deserve some sleep.
Yeah.
Yes, you good?
Yep. I was thinking if I can use armor sphere to upgrade my weapon.
Bro. Okay, drink up, guys.
Right.
Okay.
Hi, Jackal, welcome in.
My buff's still on. Actually, both my buffs still on. I'll go straight in, I guess.
Alright.
Alright, taste the power of balloons.
Cannot eat too much dust already. My dust eating got butt also. Okay.
Ah.
Is it aggro, right?
Do I?
Oh, do you not? I thought I saw the red line, so I turned around and fight.
Oh, it's just the hand missile
Ah,
thing.
okay.
Oh, I have it now? Okay. Oh, I am not good. Oh,
Oh my god.
oh.
You're running the fire!
Oh shit.
I'm not trying to hit the face really.
Oh, oh wait. Oh, my hotkey was on the wrong tab. I was like, oh, why suddenly nothing?
What the hell is going on?
Okay, I got it. You can
Okay,
relax it.
okay. I can't see.
Give me another shield. Double layer. Alright.
Alright.
Can I quickly go back? Sorry.
Oh, cool.
Yum.
Somehow my loader doesn't have the promise for it.
I'm going to eat mushroom. Mushroom. Oh, I have it. Put it at the very far. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I still get punched.
Oh shit! Oh shit! I am. Oh, why did I? Oh no 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 no! I am. Am I dead? No, I'm alive somehow.
Oh, you got Moxie, is it?
Oh, thank you. I don't think so. I was like maybe literally 1 HP.
Stabilize yourself. I power catching.
There's health, okay?
Yeah, okay. Getting hit by him a lot. Oh,
Nice.
what?
Oh, he like froze a little bit.
Yeah.
Ah, my god.
Stop throwing that shit! What the fuck?
Give us our shield.
Can you break the one in the back?
The back ah.
Yeah,
on,
the back
on
is
top ah.
fucked up.
I got the
I'm
amity.
moving up. Unless Shira, you need help.
Ah, I'm okay. Oh, what? Oh, he still got me there. Whoa, 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 whoa.
Let's try to go to the-
Okay, I'm going in. Oh, not quite. Does that touch him?
Not
Okay,
quite.
face here. This way. Come here. This way. Yoo-hoo, yoo-hoo. Hey, how about that? Too far? God dang it. Okay. Trying to aim. Bro. Oh shit. I'm on my secret. I'm running. I'm running.
If you run faster, will he beam faster? Question.
No, he
Nah.
Okay, that's good.
Eh,
I was like, I
you
see the
can
secret
outrun
walk
it.
past, I was like, oh no.
Man.
I bring him to one rock.
Oh, is this close enough? No,
I don't
still
know.
not.
I can't really look.
Okay. Not quite. Not really. He needs one more. Oh, no, this one I can't tell. Wow,
No.
bro, so hard to
Yeah, I
make
think
him.
by him.
Come here. Oh, let's just goes in between.
Okay.
This one, surely. He's literally under it. No, it's not. Is he not?
No.
Oh, he's not. Wow, my perspective. Oh my god, I can't see. I
Oh,
can't
crap.
tell.
Oh, oh.
I have shield. Oh, okay, never
Don't
mind.
worry, he's targeting. Okay, should we can?
Yes,
Yeah, I thought.
Okay, okay.
Thank you.
Nice, nice, nice.
That was
So much just
the
to
best
aim
that we
him
got so
below
far,
the. Ow! Oh, there's a wound already. Mustard on air burning. Okay, I got this wound.
Because we were moving in sync, you know, that's I couldn't tell. Like we were moving the same direction at the same time. I thought it was really. Oh, what?
Back right leg got one.
Okay, going.
Another one. Oh shit! I am not good. I am not good. I am not good. Oh! I ran out of space. Okay, okay. Thank you, thank you.
Bring it up. Master bomb, master bomb.
Uh-oh.
I was in fury helm, sorry.
Oh, no, no, no.
Ow! Oh shit! Escaping.
I can't see. Is he zooming again?
Ah, no, no.
No.
No zoom, no zoom.
Oh, what the?
Woohoo! Oh, calm down, man.
Bro, bro, bro.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Oh,
Hey,
it's the
bro,
MRV.
bro.
It's the multiplayer MRV. Multiplayer MRV.
Oh shit. Ooh. Oh, oh, wow, wow. Wait. Oh, another spam. God dang. Oh shit, why did I turn around? Holy shit.
Calm your feet.
Bro, you can't just keep spamming without consequences, right?
On it.
This is what happens when we let
Oh,
him get
Kucha!
long and reach
Yeah,
for,
dude.
without consequence. Oh, this is not the one. This
Keep spamming and spamming and spamming.
Still need one more leg, right? Okay.
yeah, one more.
Give me a wound. Oh shit. Oh. Oh, this is not good.
MRV again.
Oh, gee. Oh, oh. Am I dead?
I don't
Oh,
have
I'm dead.
stamina.
Oh my god.
Why? Okay, I do.
So well, Shirazi. Yo. Oh my god. Ah.
You're really emoting, bro.
Emoting is crazy.
Okay, take the chance to beat one leg, guys.
Coming back.
Instead of the leg we're choosing. Ah, never mind.
Oh. Where the mustard go? He cancelled.
He went.
Oh shit. Ah. And that is not good.
There's a one here.
Wait, oh, I need to get out of there.
I'm gonna RIP already, still.
He's down, he's down, he's down. Just heal, heal.
Okay,
heal.
okay. Oh, I have the MET. Ooh. Oh, his face got wound.
Give me a shield.
Oh, nice. How you make the shield? Just
when you
hit.
his face. When you
Ah.
his face.
Okay,
One on the leg.
I see.
Nine.
He should be blind.
The leg don't have shield one.
Yeah, leg no shield, it's only the face.
There.
You want to hit his face?
What a beautiful video meal, what they're playing.
Dreamland.
What's wrong with Monster Hunter?
I have to shuffle my weapon twice.
Even a maiden can hunt monsters, you know?
When you're desperately blocking.
Oh, crazy man, that one.
Oh shit. Oh, where did I get off? No!
Those who didn't drink the hot drink long enough, right? Make sure you replenish the stamina with sticks or rations.
Oh no, even I reach on.
Oh, yeah.
The game provides some. I think.
Probably.
I'm not sure.
Oh shit.
Oh, that's...
Okay.
Okay. Oh, beam.
I'm running.
Did we just land 3k damage? Oh my god, the laser is good.
Oh, Starboard.
Starboard.
Oh no, it's the... Okay, never mind.
Starbuck got
Is it
cancelled, I
Starbuck?
think. No,
He
Starbuck
did.
Starboard's cancelled, yeah.
He didn't do
Why
it.
is he barbecuing himself?
I mean, if he takes damage,
Ah,
he'll
shit.
be nice.
Yeah, god
but he
dang it.
doesn't.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Oh, careful.
Careful. Alright.
It's so good.
Ah, I cannot
I'm trying to regain aggro.
go far enough.
Okay, I got the aggro finally.
Okay. Get the lick. Ah, shit. Alright.
You can hit the hand. Oh.
You can hit it, yeah. You can hit it.
Ah!
Were you not the one that was
No.
doing it the whole time? Somebody was doing it for me also.
I shoot a lot of time. Yeah.
I think previous round
Does
I was
this
thinking
game
about
sound
it.
good? Dark Shadows
Because I
of the
was like,
Abyss?
fuck the
Oh,
hand.
I don't know, maybe.
Then after that, I never get hit.
I mean, I don't get to always shoot it.
Yeah.
I shoot my hand.
It's a happy surprise whenever this happens.
Oh shit.
Wow, fireball.
Wah! I didn't get to block it. Yeah, but...
Change your weapons. Is it?
Oh,
I'm not sure.
not yet.
He said reconfiguring. I thought it was, yeah. Then I'm disappointed. Okay, there.
Okay, there we go. Okay, changing.
Oh, I didn't get to break the wound.
What the? What do you call it?
The closest mobile is right here. Right in front of me.
Okay, this is- Ow! I got hit already.
Oh, by the...
Is he here?
Use the floor, I guess.
Oh shit. Bruh,
There's
need
a
to
mobile
get his
here.
aggro. Oh.
He's moving too much. Come here.
I can't even hit him, bro. Give me your aggro!
Moving so much.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, nice shoot.
Oh, careful the orange.
Oh, sleep.
Did he die?
No.
No. Oh,
Oh,
wait,
he
no,
never-
he moved off AoE.
Damn.
Ow.
Wow, this is a goner. I don't even see the marble. Like, did he die?
I mean, there was one that was attacking him. One attacked the wing.
Ah.
So that's
He's
two
down.
out.
Oh shit. God dang it. This guy for...
Our shields together.
Oh. Yeah, bye.
Moving so much that one.
Nasty.
Mama. Mama.
ご無事で何よりです。
Yar.
があれば補充していってくださいね。
We're going to sleep.
Sleep a couple times. Make sure
Yeah.
Nata work overtime. Alright.
No, sorry, I think I caught Des off guard a bit.
Sleep already.
Be like, "You guys
Shira caught me though. Shira understood me.
was like, god damn.
Nah, it's not that bad. Yet.
Yet, huh?
The additional word means everything.
I don't even have points to sleep, eh.
Oh, that's
Oh,
crazy.
What is your points for?
7k.
7K?
She
Yeah.
did spend quite a lot shuffling last time.
Damn.
Oh,
Yeah, shuffling the mob that got nothing. Nothing not
Really?
working.
dang. Mm,
I'm not even looking at the mob already. Too tired.
how many times to sleep? 3 maybe? Let's see.
Maybe that's post. Maybe you got some luck. Maybe it's always like post or something.
Huh?
Change it
I
up a
don't
bit, you know.
Or maybe the one that I post is a bit more dumb, is it?
What?
Huh?
Eh, it's not unlikely. Come, let's try it.
Oh.
Oh, he got
Subtle, but
something,
not
eh.
so subtle, huh?
Has ever been subtle. you know what they say, it's worth the try. At some point you just gotta start believing in anything, you know?
Hmm.
Okay, post it.
Okay, 11:30, that's
何
all.
が必要か教えてください。僕が
What?
伝えます。
I slept at 5:30 yesterday.
Weakling. Why? Is it cause? Power.
No.
Oh, not convincing at all, that voice.
Alright.
Can't be me.
Crazy, eh?
Hello. Addicts.
I don't deny.
クエストの受注承認しました。
He's gone, guys. He's gone.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Hey, you don't want me to tank, is it? I'll just hit the legs next round.
You are an adult, you should be in control of yourself.
I'm controlling myself.
Damn.
At least I slept, right?
Dude, if that's your benchmark, I'm severely
I
concerned.
know, right?
I'm severely concerned if that's
That is crazy. Let me eat my dinner. BRB.
Oh,
Oh,
10. Oh my god.
Life.
no wonder she's
Damn.
leaning with
Damn.
Sam. Wait, she cannot hear, right? Yeah, she cannot hear. If she could hear, she would have made sound already.
Hi, Skybox. Welcome in.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go. Oh, I mean, have a few more. Gotta get got the nutrients in, you know?
Dun, 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 dun,
What you eating?
dun.
Filet-O-fish.
Oh shit, where am I flying
McDonald's
to?
at 10 p.m.
Well, people want to eat Big Mac.
Alright. Have you tried their new burger?
Not nice, eh?
Oh, the curry
It's
potato
okay.
thing.
The
Yeah.
rendang.
Oh, the rendang.
Yeah.
You all try already?
I tried.
Nope.
Nope.
It was okay.
Better than the curry potato at least.
Oh, better than the curry potato. I think it's hard to. It's hard to lose to that one.
Shit! I forgot to eat insurance. Ah, whatever.
Ah.
lah. think it works.
I think as long as one person eat can already, right?
Yeah.
I think I ate.
But I also forgot to eat the
Oh.
meal. Wait, but technically my meal thing still.
Yeah, meal is still
have.
on lah. Just your ration. Probably need to take out.
So
Alright, alright. Alright. Hope. Hope.
Terry already 1v1 him.
Oh. I thought I said let's go already.
Oh, his face. Oh, who go can I?
Okay. I okay.
Okay.
Oh,
Like,
I was like,
Christian
huh?
Dragon.
Can't move already.
Bruh. Ow.
Wow, he can step.
If he just a step on me,
Yeah, man. Goddamn, no chill.
he was stomping.
Oh, this guy just wanna step on me.
Yeah. When I aiming him, he also don't step one.
Okay.
Oh.
It's the requester diff.
Oh shit.
Requester diff.
Yeah, I guess.
Let's see. Dun, 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 dun.
Time to Kamehameha him.
Japanese first, huh?
Oh, I was on the wrong weapon again. God dang. Okay.
Oh no.
No wonder it's like my hits feel a little weak.
Ah,
It's like why my weapon blue color? Ora.
whoa. Who's your
Don't
boss?
move!
Oh, what? Oh, is it me?
I saw you move first because I saw
Oh, the bomb behind me. I was like facing it. Yeah, that just grazed my back a little bit. It's fine. Ah, there. Wing.
after to bring him to the rock and he lost that.
Oh shit. Oh. Oh, whoa. Okay, that's a bit much. Ah, run. Yep, up there. Ditch. Yeah. Coming back.
Oh fuck!
Up.
2 hits.
Oh, still. Oh. Oh, that is not good. That is not good. Oh, thank you. Holy shit.
Very nice. Oh, mounted.
Next. I. Oh. Still mounted, right?
No,
Is
I'm
it?
off.
Oh.
Off already.
Should we pull the thing?
Oh, but the face not loaded.
Oh,
Was it
shit.
not?
Oh,
I
okay.
don't see. Oh
Oh,
man,
I
he
thought I
dodged
went
it!
forward already though. I did a face first, then I did
Oh,
a
I see at the back of his leg.
Oh, he dodged it? Oh, he did hit?
No, he just let happen with that.
Oh, I thought got 3k. Oh, maybe I just
Oh,
dreamed.
maybe I didn't.
Oh.
There's another one somewhere.
He needs to be more to the right, I think.
Okay, like that.
Mm,
Right here's a bit.
a bit more. Maybe he can take one more step. At, is that at the max he can go? Maybe. Wait, I cannot put. Oh, I need to keep my weapon.
Oh no.
Oh shit. Ah, nah. Okay.
Oh, beep.
Oh, careful, laser.
Legs on the slope.
Oh, what's that? Oh, cancel.
Oh, cancel.
Oh, myself.
Never mind, he's not cancel. I was just
Yeah.
screaming.
Oh, wound.
I'll bring
We are
me
here. Oh, the wound.
Okay. One wound down.
One only. Oh, we got more to go. Let's go.
I think I got another one, but damn dangerous, yeah. Oh, many.
The
things.
front.
I
Oh,
see,
there's
I
one
see,
wound
I
here.
see, I see.
Can I stab it? I can't see the leg. Okay, I
Got it,
think
got it,
that's
got it,
another
you
one.
got it.
Okay.
One
Oh,
more.
you got one more? Yeah.
Got it.
Nice.
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 Alright.
Is there no world we can use that rock?
I feel like that rock normally quite hard to defend.
Yeah, lor, it's very deep.
Every time I try, but it's very tough.
I kind of feel like he's gonna leave soon. Maybe.
Ow.
Careful.
Beam.
Oh.
I'm on the ground. On the ground.
Oh, that's.
Okay. Moxie, thank God. God, good. All good. Serious. Oh my God, this guy is a fucking stomper.
Oh, wow. Goodbye.
He stomped wrong. Asian Wyvern coin, okay.
What?
Yeah, there was a note on the floor in the center of the fight.
Yeah, I was
I
like,
still get it,
I see.
but I never collected it.
I just used my butt thing, bro.
I busy keeping my shield up. My butt thing was gonna take up.
Oh, why am I equipping it? The net.
Anybody need to resupply? Or we can go.
I think I'm still okay.
Yeah.
I'm still okay. Time to re-drink or hot drink.
You drink hot drink.
Getting a bit cold.
That's why you need the hot drink.
Oh, beam. Ah, I'm running. And immersion.
Wing.
Nice. Wing. Ah, shit. Oh, okay.
He's back right me.
Oh, I think I see it. Oh, wait. Do I see? Do I see? Oh, starboard.
Wow. This guy really a stomper.
Yeah.
He's still stomping.
It's crazy.
What the hell? Personality one.
Oh, is he gonna do the thing? Oh, I think got wound on the face.
Bro, I'm so confused.
Shiny is near the center. Anybody can get it. I'll try.
Wait, did I not get the face? Oh, I get
I
it.
think it's on Shiva now.
Uh-huh.
You tank for a while.
I'm good.
Pitch weapon.
Ah, okay. Okay. Where is my secret? What?
Let's see, Marlboro on the left. Oh fuck, I already got hit already.
My secret don't wanna come to me. Ah, screw it. I just use my thunder.
Nice, thanks. What the freak?
Who's that?
Hit the.
He listen, I think. He tries to.
Where you go?
Oh.
Ah, my god.
Oh.
Maybe instead of chasing him, we just wait for him to come back, is it? Because is it some people chase fast, some people chase slow, so he keeps jumping to a different target.
He don't have an enmity on anyone yet.
No.
Yeah, I think easier when he target one person. I'm not hitting him enough to get it. Wow. No! Nah!
Ah,
Damn!
so freaking annoying.
Chasing it.
Yeah. Woo!
So tough.
So annoying.
I guess we just camp a Marlboro or something.
We could actually
足りないものがあれば
Okay.
補充していってくださいね
wait for him to jump to us where a Marlboro will be, I guess.
I think requested leave bro.
Dun, 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 dun,
Then you request one?
お帰りなさい
No, I just requested like
確認したいことは
that one I don't like.
dun.
Oh, because he keeps stomping, is it?
Spawn a stomper.
I'd rather he used his stomping attack than his lasers attack, actually.
Yep.
Stomping attack the tail very, very big. The laser attack the tail is not as big. Got time to move.
Bing, bing, bing.
When the lady not singing her song.
Pass already the time.
M.
はい素材集めの話ですね
Okay.
では
Restock.
That's you posting?
わかりました
She said she don't want.
No,
でもどうぞ
Oh, I see.
I doing barrel roll. That's why also.
She said she posts, she gets that one. She don't like.
Yeah. I'm not into that play, bro.
Oh.
Alright. From what I see, you and Miss So, don't know whether you're not into that play. Oh.
You anyhow spreading fake news, bro. This guy. Who is stepping on who?
You know the answer.
I know the answer. The cats are stepping on them.
Sounds about right.
That's a fact. I've seen it.
Yeah. Oh, this summer barrel roll fucking suck, guys. Some obstacle course at this thing.
Then you just wait for another day to do lor. It changes
Why?
every day.
Oh, it's damn terrible, this one.
What's this? Oh. Mm.
Mm.
Okay.
Time to eat food.
Free meal.
Free?
For a furry?
Okay.
Right.
Potion still up. Hot drink is active. I'm going in.
Yo.
Oh, she was already in. Oh, not yet. I summon bubble balloon.
Dun, 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 dun.
Beta class life support. That's me.
Get it? He managed.
Oh, you changed them. Alright.
Get a share at the side.
Ah! Oh! Oh, okay, okay. Thank you, thank you. Ow! Oh no.
Right.
Ora!
Summon the wings of the dragon wings. Let's go.
Dun, 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 dun.
Try your stomach kill.
Whoa. Alright. Wings! Oh shit. I didn't get to cast that. Oh shit.
Oh shit.
Oh, kucang. Ah! Oh no!
The wall.
Were you on secret?
Yeah.
You got no
the
more
wall.
place to run.
No
Actually, the
wall.
wall there, there's a.
Actually, you can just Superman.
Can hide behind the wall, got chance.
Hide behind the wall. Or further back is it?
Yeah, further back. Like, put the wall between, the edge of the wall between him and you. Some angle, I'm not sure the angle whether can. You know best lah, I can tell. But sometimes when I'm deep in there and got wall in front of me, usually means I can hide behind the wall.
Oh, I got the
Further back, further
echo.
back.
Oh. Ah! Away! Away! Okay. Oh, sweet cherry. Oh, 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 oh.
You ready?
Oh, 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 oh. Oh, okay.
You can tell where I am, guys. Oh, okay, that's where the king is.
Oh, shit.
Oh, there's more
Okay.
points on me. I cannot help you. Nice, nice.
Beam! Ah.
Fuck!
Bruh.
Got one.
What the?
Oh. Yeah, but
Oh, this run is not it.
Yeah.
I'm suffering, man.
oh, I got the MET.
It's on your right. I see it, I can get for you.
Already.
Okay. Thank you.
You can to the ship.
Oh, there's so many things. Shit.
Yeah.
Oh, bro, this guy's a spammer. Holy shit. I need to heal. Oh my god. Okay. I'm gonna go in the shoot. Alright. Wow. Oh, it's crazy. Oh, where's this? Oh shit. Can I hold this? Ah!
MP.
Ah! Oh, I couldn't
This
hold
run
it.
is not it.
This run is not it. This run is not it.
Yeah.
It's a little crazy.
Mhm. Chira. Energy. Eat this one. Right, Nata.
It's the support ship.
Okay, this is the run, guys.
Yo,
Let's go.
this is the one.
If we die, I will cut it off.
Huh?
Oh, what are we cutting? Oh.
No, no, no. Shira, Shira, you correct yourself there. What are you cutting? Okay, it's not a we situation over here. Okay? I didn't agree to. I didn't consent to none of this.
Oh.
Mm, it's not a we thing.
What are you cutting off first? Yeah, you
Oh.
said that.
Yeah, I think that's the most important question for everyone here.
Oh, don't you want to know?
Mm.
Kind of, that's why we're asking. You're just not replying.
Need to wait until the end of the episode first.
Kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Hey, cutting away.
Dun, 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 dun. I go come in.
Other shield.
No, don't go. Nah. okay, okay. Bang, 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 bang. Woohoo! Oh. Wing!
Huh?
Eh? Who died? Oh, Kuchang!
Avoid. Never mind.
You avoid the rocket, they get into the laser.
Never mind.
Yeah, it happens quite a lot.
Nom.
Oh, what? Oh.
Is
Shira rock.
it? Is it?
I can't get it. Hold on. Oh, getting it. Okay, okay. Got it. Ooh. Okay. I got the aggro. Ooh.
I'll focus on leg.
Hi, Nish. I jumped over to you, so you're just not taking damage. No worries. I'm too focused in the game as well to even see chat that much. Ah! Ooh! But yeah, how you doing? This game seems fun. Yo. Monhunt's pretty fun. Oh shit! Oh shit! Yeah, bye! Ah! Get out,
Good,
get
you
out.
need help?
I'm good. Just need to get out there. Okay. Oh shit.
Shira, it's me.
It's
I
me.
think. No, it's
Oh
not
shit.
yours.
Oh,
It's me.
I'm on the ground. I'm on the ground. Oh, oh, thank you. Oh my god, that's a clutch one.
Oh shit.
Oh, okay, clashing.
Shira, you aim the legs, I aim the people.
Okay. Love the music videos. Have a wonderful voice. I don't understand Japanese much, but I enjoy the music. Ah, thank you. Your. I wonder if I can ever do a English song, but I don't really know that much English songs, honestly.
No, not yet. But focus on leg first now.
Wah!
Did I see wound?
No, one here.
Oh shit, I got mustard.
You broke your
Oh no. Cherry. Oh.
Oi, oi, oi! Stomping, stomping! Leave!
Oh, he dashing. Oh,
Oh fuck, fuck, fuck. Someone else.
oh, oh, he's after Kuchang. Okay, okay.
Is he charging anything? I'm coming.
Nope.
Break.
Okay, we got all the legs.
3 or 3.
I got the aggro. Wow. Da, 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 da. Ah, mounted.
More rest, okay.
Mm-hmm.
No, we're not lick. Which way? Oh, hell no.
Got wet.
Where did he go?
So
Can I wall
he also
bang?
represent you.
Oh, is that a wall bang? I
Oh,
can't
there we
tell.
go.
Never mind. No stamina. God dang. Didn't get to finish him. Ora!
Maybe swap your stuff? Or we can go straight.
I can go straight for now.
Probably
I can go straight.
Yeah. Drink my hot drink. Oh. On me, on me.
Already?
Mm-hmm. Oh, beam.
Good job, right?
Oh, on top of him got a wound. Cannot reach that.
Lava,
Lava.
lava.
Oh! Ah, da, da, da.
Cannot last starboard this, bro.
If his La bot is left because L is left.
So we're
If it's
standing
not
on
left,
his
it's
left
right.
or what?
Stand on his
So he
right.
attack whoever's standing on the left, yes.
So if La, then we need to right.
Go to his right.
Yeah,
or
correct.
our left if that's easier for you to remember.
Fuck.
Ow.
Sure, I need help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, okay. Need to switch. Oh, is he doing the thing? Okay, okay. Oh no, he's not doing the thing yet.
Just
Eh?
go shoot him, but
Is
then
it now?
he has chance to fly.
Oh, he is the thing.
Where's the Mar? Mar on me.
I brought the bar over, then he fly over. Fly okay.
Okay, I'm going to you. Your health, careful. Ooh.
Oh my god.
coming to the mouth. To the mouth.
Ow! Oh shit, that knocked me off.
Mouth. I don't know where the mouth.
The one's attacking behind.
Are you serious?
Oh!
I feel like he died already.
No more Mao already. No more Mao already.
Oh
Wow,
my god,
he's
are you
spamming.
He's spamming. Oh, freaking
Yup.
hell.
Actually spamming.
serious? Got chunks on my nose. But I think very hard.
Oh. Ora. Wow. Oh, I got his aggro.
But
Ah, no! God dang, this
oh, he
spider.
spammed that laser beam though. Oh, that was so annoying.
That was like 5 times, I think.
Meh, 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 meh.
きっとやり遂げられます。まずは準備と対策に努めましょう。
Nada, nada.
Ichiran is giving some coupon. Let's go claim.
Every time we lose, right, then it says slay the Nestella first. Like, duh, I think we don't know. Ah.
What you think we've been
Bloody
trying to
hell.
do this whole
Yeah,
time?
we think what? You think we don't want, is it?
You're dead already.
Bro, Nata's not even doing his fucking job.
I think right, when the spider spawn right, we just all go to him so that he won't move around. Cause he normally uses that skill to go to somebody, right? I think.
No, I feel
And
like he
his
just
skill-
run.
And his skill right, doesn't hit. Very very low chance to hit on him himself. So if you stick to him, you're more likely to survive. Just stick on him.
I know. I mean, we can try.
Try.
Yeah,
Or
just
do it.
surround him.
Yeah, just stick on him. The laser beam will go over you. The star strike thing also just is far away one.
I'm just gonna shoot everything.
Yeah.
Must be nice having a shield.
Just stick to him. Just stick to him.
またいつでも。
The only problem is when he starts running around.
Yeah.
I think he only swings, like, you're right lah. He only starts swinging
swings
that
when there's
shit when,
somebody else.
yeah, when there's someone that's out of range, maybe. Okay, this is the run, guys. About time already.
Maybe when it's about that thing, right? Then we all gather first, so we
Yeah,
can
get
all
on
run.
him lah. Get on him. Get on him.
Okay, okay.
Mm.
Ready
またいつでも。
to
Alright,
beat this
alright.
robotic spider for the last time.
Win or lose also for the last time.
Oh, I didn't say that.
Uh,
I hate
11?
This guy so much.
準備もろもろ。どう
No,
ぞ
no,
お
no,
忘
no,
れ
no.
なくね
It's just more like a kidding thing.
Oh.
It's more like I'm done with this guy, you know.
Oh.
I hate him so much.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel that already. Starting to feel that. That bar is filling up. The bar.
Then slowly you start thinking, Fatalist is more worth it.
No, 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 no.
You don't know yet.
I don't know. At this juncture, I will still take this over Fatalist. Fuck. the
Yeah, for now,
Fatalist.
for now.
For now?
Yeah, because the more you kill him, you know. You see, if you kill Fatalist, right, you at least get the best in slot armor, okay? Best in slot gears. You kill him, what you get?
Scrap metal.
It's quite funny.
At least Fatalist, the reward matches the effort.
I don't know. I feel like Fatalist, after all we've been through, it's a bit more predictable than this.
Yeah.
shit.
This guy is hard to predict. I agree.
Although you ask me to fight Fatalist now, his 360 Dragon Breath thing is kind of still.
True, true.
Just give me my wall banks back, man.
Yo.
Your
Let me eat something.
If you take it a while, I go toilet.
Let's go toilet first. I also want to pee.
alright. Take some water too then.
And back.
Oi. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Hey Astros, welcome in. Welcome back. Oh. Ba, ba, ba. Oh no, is my stream hanging? Yeah, bye. Oh, hello. Am I back? Sorry, my stream just lagged a little bit.
Okay.
None.
Back.
Back. Mm-mm-mm.
Yeah, always here.
Oh.
Oh.
The moment I left, my cat sat on my where my ass was, cause it's warm.
Okay.
So cute. I cannot.
Which one?
Near. Sometimes they are so cute, but sometimes they are so.
The silence is deafening.
I'm ready.
Ready.
So,
Oh, I'm in already.
Oh, oh. Okay, then I entered the next then. I assume you got the hit, right?
I guess. All right. Wow.
It's a bit smart.
誰かが注意を引きつければ隙が生まれそうだ
Bring it away. Okay. Oh. Michael, thank you for the hydrate. Mm. Oh, shit.
Feel for you, Shira. Actually, it's probably for myself.
Is it on you? Not yet.
Not yet, but it's
Oh,
almost
there
there.
you
Once I
go.
move his face, it's high chance me.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Auto parking made me walk through the mustard.
yeah, which is why I ran to the extreme right. I saw it coming, eh. I
But
no
on
chance to
the on the secret, you don't get burned.
You do, you do.
No, you don't know.
You get burnt a bit, but normally maybe you heal up on the way.
Oh
I'm
fuck!
dead, I'm dead, I'm dead, I'm dead, I'm dead.
Oh,
Wait, maybe I'm not. I was thinking, I was
oh.
thinking. I'm good, thank you.
Nice, nice.
I haven't drawn my gun out, you should be able. Gun, my lens.
On the. Ooh. Downing.
So much fun just punching itself. Does he get damage?
Hi, Drake, welcome in. Arushin.
Come over, come over.
I mean. Oh, there's a wound there. Nice.
Look like beam.
Laser beam, laser beam, laser
Oh,
beam.
beam. Okay, okay. Oh, what?
Oh, what happened?
Not sure what. I was blocking it.
Your stand?
Maybe I wasn't keeping an eye.
Is it the counter thing? I feel like sometimes when I click the counter, I ditch.
Yeah.
Oh, Kuchang.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh,
Yaba.
not good.
No.
Oh,
Ah, yeah, right.
ba- ba-
I'm on the floor.
Oh, shit, 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 shit.
Oh, that's
Oh,
rough.
oh. Shit. Oh, everyone ditch.
Fun.
That was pain. The combo is shit.
Mm-hmm. Where's this? Wow, this rampage. Ooh. Get out, get out.
Get over the good spot. Nice.
It's a freebie.
Oh, nice. Oh no, is that? Oh shit. Dun. Oh, beam. Oh, Kuchan! Wow! Oh.
Oh,
What can I do at that point? What can I do?
Auntie.
Unlucky.
Your.
get the stompy guy.
That's your host, are you?
Yeah.
Done.
I can feel it.
I see how it works.
Got mental toe one.
Yeah. Oh, what can I do to increase our chances of winning? Nothing else really. Let's try our best lah.
準備もろもろどうぞお忘れなく。
All right. Mm-mm-mm.
This is the run.
Let's do
We
our
can do it.
best, guys.
Huh?
What is
Let's
this?
go.
Yeah, what?
Wait,
Suddenly I
quadri-
hear this
quadri-
guy crying. What the fuck?
I tell you, I rather fight Fatalist than this guy already. Which part of that you don't understand?
He's not that bad.
I don't know how you don't do it.
It's actually avoidable.
Fatalist is so avoidable. What are you talking about?
I got no shield.
Then you better not die, ah.
You got shield, ah? Why you died?
Okay. You want to play at least?
Dang. Ora. All right. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, beam. I'll beam. Alright. Yeah. Oh, I was locked up. Oh, careful. Oh. Oh shit. Oh shit. Whoa, 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 whoa.
Wait, I'll stand.
Oh. Cherry. Okay. Is he under it? I think so.
I think it's under.
Okay. Oh, wound. You got it. Beam. Oh. No! Wound! Give me that wound! Oh, nice, nice, nice.
But don't have
Really, I
the
can't
leg. Oh,
Oh. What is this? Oh. Come on, one more leg. Give me one more. Woo! What shit?
Stop on Ebony.
Yeah, moving away. Not
Healing
far away.
up.
Beam.
Oh, beam! I am moving. Okay. Mounted.
Mount.
One leg. One leg.
Hey, got one, got one. Uncle Chandra.
Yeah, I got it.
Nice.
Oh, but you're mounting.
Ah, it's okay.
It's okay, it's
I
okay.
can just get the leg
You
pad,
better get
right?
this book out.
Yeah.
Priorities, you know.
Yo. Get his rampage mode. Wait. Oh no, the plasma on me. My secret. Come, please. Oh.
Beam. Eh? No.
No.
Oh shit.
This is face.
Drink. Her sweet.
Oh, is it okay?
Facing the wall. That's so annoying.
Oh yeah.
He's still stomper. Oh my god, I knew it. It's a stomper.
Beam.
Laser.
I'm coming. Yeah. He fell. One leg. Oh man.
No.
Anybody need resupply?
I'm still okay.
Be okay.
I think I also.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yo.
Alright, let's keep going, man.
But
Alright.
I don't know, sia. Because of the Nasila. Can ba?
Bomb on me.
Laser beam.
Whoa. Wing.
Honey, you come closer.
Ah.
Labak his left. Stay on your right.
Oh. Okay. Oh, nice. His head got wound. Or is it the top of his head? I don't know what's that.
But no shield. Oh, have. Oh, master. I cannot. Eh?
I got his aggro. Oh, his face got another wound. Oh, is it time?
Yeah, changing.
Okay.
Gather.
Mhm.
Eh? Why got something there?
I paralyze him.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
Ooh. Oh shit.
Oh, fuck,
Ah.
this was sweet.
Okay lah. Hit me.
Ah, poison.
Oh what?
Oh, I thought he died.
I'm using my that sleeping great sword.
Ah, no. Oh shit, I should have healed. Ah.
Ah, he beat me.
Ah, I gotta go
Wah.
back. Can I make it?
Ah, sleep again.
All I see.
Mother. Ah. It's too damn hard, yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Man.
Mm.
No, I think we
Bam,
clear the
bam.
front part faster.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the paralyzed worked on him a little bit.
He slept like 1 second.
Yeah.
But it's a good flinch, I think.
Yeah, it is. It is. Like, there's no time to wait to set out a good hit for sure.
Yeah. Too much time.
Okay.
Nata.
Ooh, another time?
One last one, probably.
Yeah.
I.
I think can. I think can. Okay. I think paralyze no use eh. Can't paralyze him.
Hi. 必要なものはありますか？アズズの里の皆さんがよろしくと。
Go.
Oh, free meal. Okay, I see what you mean. The songstress on leave, is it?
No lah, we're just missing her every time.
しました。
Let's take vendors. Alright.
She sing.
Oh!
Oh.
She's singing, she's singing!
Okay.
Can she sing
He's the
faster?
run.
We need all the buff we can get her.
Yeah.
Hey, my chair.
Uh, just about to say that she on leave, bro.
I can't control myself. Where's my seat? Oh. Minto. Hello. Oh my god. My character is just... I think my keyboard cannot detect my inputs properly anymore. I mean, wait, my keyboard dying. Yeah, man, I cannot move properly.
Sing for me the song of my people.
Why I can't sit on the chair? How's your Odyssey? Oh, I went to watch it the other day. Not bad. Kinda wanna rewatch it in the IMAX though. I went to watch the other day and I was like, oh, you know, kinda not that many people. But then today when I went to just look at the IMAX seats and like, whoa, it's like so many people. I'm like, I see. Everyone's experiencing the movie in its full glory, huh? I know it's meant to be an IMAX. Is it time to rewatch? I want to watch IMAX but all sold out. Yeah, sheesh. Especially because IMAX only like what the Shaw Theatre. I feel like I don't Shaw Theatre's not that much. I feel. Damn. So did you watch it still? Or like you're still waiting for the IMAX? Just Standard still very good. Yo. I wanted to watch it because I've been, you know, in the epic hellhole a little bit. Ding, ding, ding. Can't wait for everyone else to watch it. I know Kuchan wants to watch it too. I think Des also said she wanna watch it. Yes. Watch the Odyssey.
This is
Nice. Alright. This is
Alright,
it.
with the buff of our
it. Yeah. This is it.
This is the run. Do, 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 do. Bam, bam, bam. Alright. I have all my drinks still. Okay.
going in.
Alright.
Or somebody preparing to beam early, is it?
Just keeping the balloon. Oh, I'm on my wrong weapon again. Hold on. Ooh, switch. Thunder, thunder, bring out the thunder weapon. Oh my god! I swear my keyboard just not inputting. What? X, X. Okay.
Shield.
Ow! Oh! Mayday! Mayday! Oh my god! Running, running away. Healing, healing. Alright. Mate! Alright.
Third.
Nice. Oh.
Running.
face not wounded.
Oh, cannot go forward anymore already. Can I not
So
press
weird.
one more?
Oh, I don't know.
I got that
I felt
fun.
like when Death did it, like God, I'm not sure.
I don't know why.
You really cannot, yeah. You really cannot. Then
Sometimes we
I
have
keep pressing forward already.
just lucky, I guess. Like we just nice wounded the face at the same time. I think.
Yeah.
Oh,
Or like maybe the hitbox are a bit different. The dual blade and the longsword.
hi Conquer, welcome
That's so weird
in.
though.
I'm new. What's going on? Oh, I'm just playing
If I
Monster
ever go
Hunter.
up again, let me just keep pressing forward and see what happens.
Spoiler: I have monsters in this game. Real.
we're going in. I guess we are.
Hi user, welcome in.
What's going on?
This is Monster Hunter Wilds. Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. Hey there! Ah! I'm trying to go. He's not letting me go. Oh my god. Okay. Coming in, coming in. Coming, coming. Alright, right. I am here.
Oh,
No laser beam for you.
Ora! Da-da-da.
okay. No.
Don't understand this
Know how
game?
to play
Oh.
my job.
It's quite straightforward. Just beat up monster. Monster Hunter. You hunt monsters. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Oh shit.
Let's get my face very brief.
It's okay. Got wound.
Oh, beam.
Laser beam. The other two. Not the two who are already studying the shield.
Actually, I need my hot water.
Ampy. Ampy got one.
Where's my hot drink? Hot drink. Alright. Okay. Eat there. Oh, okay. Wow.
Was rushing to the
Oh, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Holy shit.
Oh, damn it. I cannot move.
He emoting. He
Oh, hold up, hold up.
I can move already, I can move already.
Okay. Yeah. Whoa. Oh my god.
Oh,
Oh,
get out.
oh, wait. Oh, oh, oh. Step up, step up. Got him.
Wait,
Oh,
is it
oh.
clear?
Next.
Okay. Woo.
Nice.
Time to top out your hot drink, huh?
Oh yeah. I'm good. Oh, beam right off the bat. Keep running. All right. Wing.
But
Oh shit. Oh, this is not good. Oh, plasma. Ah. Oh, thank you. Okay.
oh, I don't see the shiny one.
Oh, skating. Oh,
What? He cooking himself.
Okay. Oh, why he stop standing in the fire? What? Are you aiming me? Oh shit. Oh. Okay.
Weakness on the face.
What is there a wound beside? Oh, never mind. Oh, plasma
I got
on.
it.
Change weapon if you want to.
Oh,
No lah.
okay.
Let's do it.
Oh, we stand together at the side so that he will first thing is jump to us.
Oh, are these robots things also?
He's coming to stun him.
Oh, he moved.
No.
Oh, he moved back. Oh. Wow.
There's a cat claw. Nice. Okay. Good job, buddy.
Oh my god, stop.
Paralyze him.
Paralyze.
Yes! Oh, okay.
Careful, there's another Mongo coming.
Ouch.
Did he paralyze? No, I think got.
No. It's okay. Okay.
Nice.
Okay. Sharpen.
Change weapon, but I rather.
Oh yeah, I gotta change later in case I accidentally write out.
In case you mount on the thing and start running out. Yeah, I think I should change the grades up here. Just to maximize DPS.
Can't see.
Alright, let's
Alright.
go.
Okay, change back.
Can.
No, stop sharpening this one. Change. Alright. Oh, my mental not ready. Alright. Oh, I'm gonna use this shit then. Oh,
Play slower. With your
I got the ego.
Labot.
Should be fine in here, I think. Okay. Oh, I think his face got wound. Oh, never mind. Nice second.
How much more this ship can take?
Oh, careful. HP. I shot lah, coming. Nice. Wait.
what?
Oh.
Oh,
Fucking leave.
Okay.
Don't let your guard down yet.
Mhm.
Okay, now you can let your guard down.
Okay. Oh, I need to eat my ration.
Did anybody pick up the shield? I think he should drop one.
Yeah.
Just plan when you're in danger later. Anybody
Okay.
need to go back, top up?
up to you.
I can go
I am
back
quite
real
healthy.
quick. Yeah, y'all can start first, I guess. I'll just top up and come
Then
back.
I'll go back.
I think top up.
We can win.
Yeah, top up.
Okay,
up,
okay.
It's fast already.
Alright.
How's Monhunt? Well, still trying to defeat this Omega. My god. We got so close though at one point. Going back.
Are you doing hot drink?
Mhm.
Your wishes.
Alright. What's the drop?
Okay, I'm ready.
Oh, okay. Mental not ready. Alright.
Alright.
Okay.
Gamba, guys.
Okay. Okay. We can play it slow. We can play it slow.
Yeah,
No
please.
rush, no rush.
Got a lot of time.
Okay, it's rage mode. Right?
Oh shit.
Oh. Oh, Cherry, okay.
Okay, but I need life powder.
Oh, wait, pull it out. No, stop. Okay, I'm like, dang,
Oh,
my combo
damn
takes so long to to end.
Starbot.
Oh shit.
Labot. Same side. Same as just now.
Oh shit, where do I face? Here. Okay. Oh, okay, wait. I need to go here. Secret! Okay. Woo! Oh my god, don't worry. Oh, what? Oh, the wound. Okay, you can get the wound. Okay. We'll get the other thing. Can't see. Oh, a cherry, okay? Okay. Oh shit. Oh shit, the plasma me. Oh, okay, then nice finish. Oh my god. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Oh, I'm standing, lying down. Okay. Just okay. I need to drink hot drink.
Down?
What was that?
Missile. Careful.
Oh, missile was cancelled.
Oh, cancel. Okay. There's a wound.
One wound there.
I'm getting it. I think got it.
He roughly hit me.
Trying to get his face. Oh shit. Yeah. Ooh. Oh shit. Whoa, 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 whoa. Heal. Wow, he's spamming again. Okay. I'm coming.
Shira, 3 stacks. I can panic running.
Look at me. Oh shit.
He'll move irregularly, guys. I'm running around.
Okay. Gonna start healing. Oh, he's skating. Oh shit, that goddamn jump. Beam.
Underneath!
Oh no, shit.
I was too far on you.
Wow.
What the fuck?
He's spamming. Run away from him. Woo. Ah,
Scared to me!
yeah.
How
yeah.
many continue do we have?
That was-
It's okay. We can play it safe a bit now. He just spamming. He's doing his spamming skills. Yeah, just avoid playing Osu right now. The opposite.
Stay strong.
Yeah. We're just riding our sacred. He's skating.
Dashing.
Shit. He's skating again. Sacred, take me away from him.
Dashing.
Oh, thank you. Okay. He's skating. Oh, is it gonna beam? Yeah, beam. Beam.
Laser, careful.
Oh, nice.
Nice, careful.
Oh,
Raw.
I get cramp already.
Oh,
Oh, he already
shit.
crazy.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna ride away. Oh. Roll. What? Oh,
Yes!
oh,
Yes!
Oh, yeah.
Nice. Okay.
See how close we were at the first round also.
Yeah. When he's spamming that shit was nice.
You guys can finally get out
Can
of
sleep.
This. I would say this is harder than the next one.
Yeah.
The next one is more like...
I don't think I fight the next
All the
one
same
yet.
shit all over
Oh, you
again.
fought this one before. You
Dropping
played.
anything nice.
Ah? Did I fight the next one before? What did I fight after this?
The big black dragon.
Eh.
Another one?
Have you not fought another one like that?
I think I seen the cutscene, but I haven't fight it yet.
Oh, you haven't? Okay.
I haven't progressed after Omega.
See, you're in for a fun...
Wow,
Honestly,
really?
it's a much funner fight. It
Uh,
might be a bit
Oh.
difficult, but it's fun. This one, yeah, hard to say. Hard I'm finding fun.
hey.
I'm still thinking we never used the two on top, the fifth thing.
I was trying to. I was trying to
I
get
was
his
thinking
aggro
like, do we
that
need to
we-
use it?
Oh.
It was me and Shira. I was like, oh my god, I want to use it.
Yeah, but the moment we come back, I use it. Cancel the laser beam.
Yeah, I was like, it's so far, and I'm like just trying to not get too near. Nice.
Oh, we are further than
Hey. We can move on, guys.
that. I can go sleep in peace.
Actually.
This is also the first round that I realized that I should spam demon mode.
It
Oh,
is a
you have?
bro.
I haven't been spamming until I was like,
Oh,
maybe I should have been spamming.
Guys, it was all that's why it took this long.
I thought dual blade you're supposed to
Yeah,
instant
do a break.
be
This is a bread
forever
and butter,
in
leh.
demon
Oh,
mode.
Why you going in with your plastic knife?
I was not spamming it. I was like,
That's nerfing herself.
yeah.
Disappointed in you.
When I
Quite.
spammed that, I was like, a lot of weak point, guys.
Nice.
Okay, all good as long as
All
you
right.
get through, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
finally.
Oh,
GG
good.
guys.
GG's.
Yay.
Nice.
Good sleep.
GG easy Omega.
Yo.
Whoa,
Dang.
This guy.
So it was Des unnerving herself.
Yeah. Unleash her
Oh.
power.
Me? You never used it before?
No. I used it like 3 times.
Great, how much you don't use? Can you believe it? Use dual blade for what?
Of course, I thought it's a cooldown. It's a different cooldown. I didn't know it was the stamina
It's
cooldown.
Wait.
stamina based, yeah.
If I'm hearing this right, it's like me using my longsword without my red
Yeah,
colour
without
blade.
your spirit breakers,
Oh
without
my
your spirit gauge.
Yeah.
That is exactly what it is. It's like
Yeah,
Shira
yeah.
so
using her
small and
gunless
tiny
without
now.
her what Wyvern fire was it called?
Why are we wait guys? Why are we not stepping on it after you step on us so many times? We need to step on that little shit, man.
Yeah,
Well, I was walking all over it.
Yeah, same. I was climbing all over it. Okay.
I did climb over it too. You didn't?
You did that?
How
Oh
about
no.
it?
When else are you gonna get the chance to do so?
No, I mean what I mean is like on this cutscene right now, it's so tiny, I can crush it like a freaking cockroach, man.
Oh, I
Oh,
thought
right,
you
there's a cutscene.
yeah, you just have.
Oh, so sorry, I didn't know I was talking about.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's so
I thought you
tiny
talked
now.
about
It was like a
the.
small crab.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
even
yeah, yeah.
smaller than
He
the
he
pelican.
shrunk or something, right? I forgot.
Yeah, you can just crush it, man.
Gives so much trouble. Send him back to his dimension.
Yeah, Otsu.
Ay, oats, oats. Ew. See. Mm.
So when you want to watch Obsession, Shira?
Oh.
I don't know. Anytime, maybe.
Wait, do we have to continue this? Search the carcass. maybe?
Gary, thank you for the follow. Welcome in.
Huh?
We just
You're
ended.
still in the game?
I left already.
Just
Wait, I was
ended.
watching the cutscene.
Finally.
Oh,
Okay.
I
okay.
instantly tap out already. I was like,
I
oh, fuck
see.
this.
Even faster than me. What the hell?
Damn, you got
I'm
no
the one that wants to see it.
cutscene.
Wow. You know cutscene, man?
No way.
Huh?
But who was the one who accepted the quest? Actually, Dash should have a cutscene
Oh.
now.
Yeah, she definitely should have a cutscene.
Oh god,
Oh.
huh? Hmm. I just like spawn in the map though. Then I
Eh.
like, nope.
I mean, I got cutscene, but I think I posted, I don't know.
Oh. Suddenly,
Hmm.
that's one dot register.
Oh, he didn't
Wow,
forget.
no way, right? There's actually no way, right?
Oh,
Oh,
You wanna
you
launch
wanna
your game and check
recheck
again?
recheck
You
that
wanna
just to
launch your
be
game and
sure
check it out
you
first
have the quest.
before we can sleep in peace tonight.
you left the game so fast. You sure you got save or not?
I got. I make sure I click save.
Hmm.
Oh.
You sure you don't want to double check?
I am launching it. Okay, I am launching it. Wow, that's fucked up. I tell you.
Shut so fast, eh.
Oh.
The moment I done, I was like, okay, I'm too tired of Monhunt already. I need to get out.
Tired of Monhunt.
Wow, I don't know. I might agree with Sherry. I enjoy the the fatalist fight. I don't enjoy this fight actually.
Huh?
Yeah.
I don't know why.
I
Uh-huh.
don't know
enjoy
why
it at
Dash
all.
like so okay with this fight.
I'm okay.
Interesting.
I find this more fun than Fatalist.
Eh,
Fatalist was
you
terrible.
are you Final Fantasy biased?
Oh, must be familiar characters, right? Actually, this 140 she also never reached there yet.
No. It's not. But I don't know. I just think it's more survivable.
Okay, anyways, our Mon Hunt is done for today.
More survivable.
Think I'll
Are we
end
playing
the
the same
stream
game?
here. Thank you so
No, like
much
you
for
can actually
dropping by.
survive in here.
I might stream
Fatalist is
tomorrow
like
after I come
you
back
make one
from
mistake, you are dead.
my errands, so we'll see.
I mean, yeah. I
Yo.
guess
Not
that's
wrong,
true.
I
Alright.
guess.
Thank
you can make
you
a lot of
for
mistake and still survive what.
watching.
But this fight was shorter, right? I think.
Oh,
Was
for
it?
sure.
Bye bye. Hope you guys
Yeah.
have a good rest. Good night.
Because somebody
Yeah,
actually used
Fatalist
their
was
skill.
damn long.
Meow.
Fatalist was a long fight.
Chong.
No,
Meow.
we